I played 4 roguelike games and I'm going to be ranking them from worst to best. Hello, I'm GalicEnder, and welcome to the second episode of Game Bracket, featuring roguelikes. I'm no stranger to this genre of gaming. In fact, I consider it to be my favorite. So much so that when I started making reviews on this channel, the first title I looked at was Enter the Gungeon. Today, that title makes a grand return, entering into the free-for-all against 3 other amazing games. But before we begin, let's go over the rules and general description of a roguelike. Roguelikes are a type of game where the player is met with a certain challenge, with a risk of losing it all. You face these trials by trudging through the game's levels, finding weapons and abilities to improve your character during the run. Should you lose during your current attempt, you start right back at the beginning, to face the ordeal from the start. Or at least that's the basics of them. Some titles have different mechanics that allow for future runs to be changed towards the player benefit, or add a risk and reward system. And it's those features that will help them stand out from the rest. Now for the rules. 1. The player must be at risk from losing all progress towards the end goal after death. 2. The game must have unlockables that can change the outcome or playstyle of the game. 3. It must be an indie game. I feel that rule was really appreciated in the last episode. Okay, now that we've been educated and we know the qualifications, let's start this off with our first contestant, BPM, aka Bullets Per Minute. Bullets Per Minute was a recommendation from one of my good friends, Banana Meep. Link to his socials below. And my god, did he bring the heat! This game gives away its niche right in the title. BPM, or Bullets Per Minute, is a play on words from beats per minute, meaning that not only is this an FPS roguelike, it's also a rhythm game. And it works surprisingly well. Every action you do in BPM has to be to the beat of the soundtrack, which goes pretty damn hard. You have to shoot to the beat, reload to the beat, jump and dash to the beat. Even the character's footsteps naturally keep in time to the music. Geez, this is bringing me back to my high school marching band days. I'm gonna be real. I had to take a day just to learn this game because when I first started collecting footage for it, I sucked. All the rhythm skills I developed during band had deteriorated, and I had to get my groove back. But man, when I got the game down. This has to be the most satisfying learning curve I've ever experienced in a video game. When you get your actions in line with the music, it feels like you're adding to the song, creating your own symphony of slaughter. This rhythmic motif the game has really adds a unique layer of depth to every weapon you find, as every gun fires in a different style that you have to match with the game's soundtrack. The shotgun must be fired, then rack another slug before it can be fired again. Pistols can be fired on offbeats, making their rate of fire much faster than the bigger guns. Rocket launchers can one-shot most enemies and can deal big damage to bosses, but you have to be precise with your aim because you only have one shot, and trying to survive while keeping to the beat adds a new level of tension that I greatly appreciate when playing. You can find shops that offer you health potions, weapons, and armor to aid you in your run. The way you collect golden keys is by of course killing enemies and completing rooms. Every enemy has a chance to drop a gold coin, and every room you complete spawns a chest full of goodies to help you. You can also use coins and keys to donate to shrines, giving you buffs or new items. Just as impressive as the gameplay and the soundtrack is the setting. BPM is greatly inspired by Norse mythology. The levels are themed around the mythos' realms, like Asgard being inside grand castles and banquet halls. Muspelheim is engulfed in fire and lava, and Helheim is barren and cold. Bosses are even themed around the legendary characters from the mythos, like the undead Draugr, Ymir, the giant whose corpse was used to create the 9 realms, and Nidhogg, the dragon who gnaws on the roots of Yggdrasil, the World Tree. The characters you unlock each spawn with different weapons, stats, and attributes to help adjust to your playstyle or change it up if you're craving something different. And lastly, there's the custom music mode. Wait, what? Oh no! You know what that means. Our next competitor is Heroes of Hammerwatch. This game was an interesting one. For starters, the first thing you do when you start the game is pick a class and customize your character. I made two characters during my playthrough, a warlock named Booten Snooten and a paladin named Bingy. You are then introduced to the town of Hammerwatch, a rundown village that used to be the peak of civilization. Its bountiful mines full of gold and ore are what made their mark on the map. Now the mines are filled with monsters, draining Hammerwatch of its wealth and resources. It's up to you, the hero, to venture down into the mines and slay the beasts within, sending up any gold and ore you find to reignite the town's economy. Collectibles are scattered throughout the layers of the mines. Gold is dispersed randomly on the floors, while ore is hidden in select spots, usually surrounded by enemies, traps, and even locked doors. I really like the way you hunt down these materials. It encourages exploration and brings a new layer of depth to the game's map generation. No room feels the same. The more you play, the more factors get added, like puzzle rooms, gauntlets that are filled with traps for you to traverse, rewarding you with a chest filled with loot, and objectives that need to be completed before you can enter the next floor. The catch of how you lose these materials is very unique compared to other roguelikes. Typically when you die, you lose all modifiers and currencies that you have collected during your run. In HHW, resources you collect can be sent back to the town via elevators. You can then use this currency to purchase new shops and upgrades. If you die before depositing your findings, you lose it all. The game even tells you that it was wasted. The elevator can only be used once per floor, and there's a tax that comes with it. It lets the player choose the risk of playing it safe and using the elevator early, or carrying your treasure just a bit longer to be less affected by the taxes, but you have a higher chance of losing it all. The town is my favorite part of the game. The more ore you collect, the more life you return to Hammerwatch, as its shops and guilds get put back in business. Upgrading your town gives you access to more upgrades and modifiers depending on who you visit. The blacksmith upgrades your weapons and armor, the guild lets you unlock and strengthen class abilities, the tavern lets you buy drinks that change certain stats for your next run, and the alchemist upgrades your potion, basically your get out of jail free card. And there's the chapel, that lets you add permanent upgrades called blessings to you and all your characters. Then there's my favorite town location, the fountain, which for a fee lets you add pros and cons to your run. Like you can increase your luck and add more treasures to be found, but to bring down the price of those buffs, I had to make my potion less effective. This is such a neat mechanic, and honestly I wish more roguelikes did this. It even lets you save presets so you can change certain dungeon builds on the fly. And unfortunately, that's all the positives I have for this title. The criticism I have isn't necessarily bad, it's just things that could be made better. For starters, combat doesn't have much depth. Yes, you can unlock more abilities the more you level up and upgrade your guild, but it's the movement that's holding it back. You don't move that quickly, and there's no dodge, no dash, or way to speed up your character without finding items that modify your speed. It led to most fights being handled by funneling enemies down hallways or circle strafing. The abilities are fun, but the way I approach fights got old very quickly. Then there's the leveling. It's ungodly slow. With the time I played, it took about 30 minutes to an hour to level up, even when I made my character stronger and started to complete more floors per run. And this is the most minor of complaints, and you can make the argument that it gives you more time and space to explore and gather more resources, but I feel the theme of an area lasts a bit too long. You must pass 3 floors, then face a boss, and then you can move to a new area. It was something I didn't mind at first, but when I started getting stronger, it made the trek back to the newest area that much longer. You can skip levels you've already beaten by completing the challenge rooms at the beginning, but it sacrifices the potential resources you can collect taking the long way. Again, I can see the counter argument, and I don't blame you for thinking it, But if I were to change it, I would make it 2 floors, then the boss, or offer a golden ore when completing the challenge rooms. Other than those minor flaws, I had a lot of fun with this title, and it's even more fun with friends, as the game lets you play with up to 4 people, so I definitely recommend this game if you're looking for a new roguelike to challenge you. It has its flaws, but I can say the good definitely outweighs the bad. Enter the Gungeon is a very special game to me. It was the first title I ever reviewed on this channel. Taking a step back and looking at it again with a critical eye showed me there was a lot I missed the first time around. Enter the Gungeon has to be the wackiest roguelike I have ever played, with its massive arsenal of creative weapons, memorable characters, and intense bosses. Guns are the theme, and they make that very clear. Your hearts are made of bullets. You pay for items at the shop with casings. A majority of the enemies are sentient walking ammunition called the Bulletkin. And bosses are all named around gun puns, like the Bullet King, the Ammo Conda, the Gore Gun, and still my favorite to this day, the Gatling Gull. Yet despite its goofy exterior, there are a lot of mechanics that polish the game's combat, adding excitement to every battle. For starters, the environment is your best friend and your worst enemy. Rooms can be littered with traps that can also be used against your enemies should you lead them into them. Chandeliers that hang from the ceiling can be switched or shot down from their rigging to deal massive damage to those who lie below it. Tables can be flipped on their side, providing temporary cover, or can be slid across to give a quick boost of speed. Explosive barrels can be shot to clear surrounding foes. You can push baddies into bottomless pits, and so much more. However, these hazards are just as deadly to you, as a stray shot from the Bulletkin has just as much effect on the environment as you do. They can even interact with tables and other objects to benefit themselves. The Gungeon holds many secrets. Hidden chests that require keys can give you brand new weapons or items to change your stats or grant passive abilities. Mini-game rooms that require a fee can net you some rare items depending on your performance. Hidden characters locked in cells can be freed and add more to the Breach, a place where you can buy new items to spawn for future runs, and get challenges from the people you rescued. Or you can just be a dick and kick this guy's helmet down into the pit. Every shop has a floor containing a plethora of items for you to purchase. Just don't fire your gun in the store. Just take my word for it. And the mysterious crypts carry secrets to this day. I still don't know what they are, so someone please tell me in the comments. The bosses are the best out of any roguelike that I've played. Their attacks range from easy to learn patterns to just filling up your screen to the point where I start having an aneurysm. And the rooms that house them change shape every time you encounter them to keep you on your toes. Every floor has about 3 bosses that could potentially spawn, eliminating the issue of repetitiveness each time you start over. Granted, you can still run into the same bosses frequently, but the moment it changes, the tension will rise. And we saved the best for last. Enter the Gungeon's arsenal is massive and carries the most unique weapons compared to its competitors. You have the basics like the M1, the 1911, and the regular shotgun. No, seriously, it's just called the regular shotgun. But then you have the crazy shit like the origami, a gun made of paper that shoots paper airplanes. You have a gun that can shoot the souls out of enemies, making them weaker, a banana that explodes on impact, the demon head from Shadow Warrior that shoots lasers. You even got the bricks from Mario that fire Koopa shells bouncing around the room. The arsenal doesn't care, and it just throws random ideas at the wall, embracing and adding to the chaos that combat provides, and it works perfectly. I love this game, I will always love this game, and you should try it if you haven't already. Now it's time to get a bit odd, in a weird satanic kind of way. Cult of the Lamb is Devolver Digital's most recent publish, and I have to give it props for its bold take on the cutesy pagan-esque style. Despite its forward approach as a roguelike, it's also a micromanaging town simulator, or just a really messed up version of The Sims. Cult of the Lamb starts out incredibly dark. You are escorted to your doom on the sacrificial altar, hosted by the bishops of the Old Order. Once decapitated, you are introduced to the one who waits below. He promises to restore your life, but in return, you must start a cult in his name for him to grow his power and escape the chains that bind him. You are then bestowed the Red Crown, an artifact of the Holy One that grants great power to the wearer. Once reincarnated, you proceed to go on a murder spree, taking revenge on those who follow the bishops. A perfect introduction to the game's combat and controls. And let me say, this game controls amazing. The lamb moves at a good speed, the dodge roll is quick and forgiving, and the hitboxes are very lenient, which is good because hitting 2D enemies on a 3D plane can be quite difficult in terms of accuracy. Once all the bodies hit the floor, you are introduced to your cult site. It is here that you will found the Cult of the Lamb, or whatever you decide to name it. Ah yes. Shameless as intended. Before we get to the cult management side of the game, I would like to finish explaining the roguelike side. The two sides of the game are that diverse, this is essentially two games in one. The roguelike side of this game is simple. Like similar titles, you run through a series of randomly generated rooms fighting off baddies. Yeah, we've seen this song and dance before. How Cult of the Lamb differs from the rest is what you discover depending on how you plan your runs and how you progress through new areas. Once you complete a level, you are shown a roadmap of various choices that will set you on the path to the boss. You can choose to gather resources for your cult, free trapped villagers to convert, access challenges to net new weapons and healing items, or shops to spend the gold you find along the way. For level progression, you have 5 separate areas to unlock, each containing new enemies and bosses. When you reach the end of a run, you must beat the bosses the bishops throw at you. Once all 4 are defeated, the insignia on the door will start to glow. Now you can challenge the bishop of the area. Once you smite the heretic, you can unlock a new level to explore, assuming you have enough followers to help you break the door. Now comes the cult micromanaging side. Damn, that's a wild genre. This plays hand in hand with the game's roguelike side. As you grow your cult, you take on all the responsibilities of taking care of your members while building new holy structures that strengthen your followers' faith. And by taking care of them, I mean actually taking care of them. You have to make their beds, feed them, talk to them to make sure they're doing alright. I mean, that last one is just being a decent person. And you also have to pick up their Yes, this can get gross. One of my followers asked me to cook them up a bowl of poop and I sat there and watched them eat it. Is there something you're not telling us, dev team? Anyway, if you take care of your followers, they will take care of you. When you recruit new members, you can customize how they look, learn their strengths and weaknesses, and then you can assign them a job to help the cult grow. You can have them gather resources, tend to the farms to stockpile food, or have them worship the lamb idol to generate devotion. And devotion is your best friend. The more devotion your cult has, the more structures you can unlock to help your cult site flourish. Most of these structures can range from basic living needs for your followers, donation sites to help you get more resources, or decorations to help make your cult a home. By far your most important building is the temple. The temple allows you to hold sermons to generate faith, which allows you to make the lamb stronger during your crusades. Or you can host rituals to change your followers' way of thinking, or generate a massive amount of faith. The way you unlock rituals is by finding commandment stones. Once you've collected enough fragments, a completed stone will net you 1 new ritual. These are themed to certain attributes of the cult like loyalty, possessions, and so on. Depending on what subject you preach about, you can choose between 2 rituals to add to your holy book. These could consist of sacrificing members, hosting a feast, or even having 2 of your members fight to the death. Either way, something messed up is going to happen. They can also change how hazards affect your cult, like brainwashing them will make it impossible for your cultists to lose faith for a certain number of days. The more you play through your crusades, you will always have the off chance to encounter random characters revealing new areas for you to explore. These new areas consist of towns and shacks where you can spread your influence, buy new tarot cards to find during runs, or find hidden collectibles. Despite this game having a lot, nothing really goes that deep. The deepest part of this game to me is the ritual mechanic, and it's based around how you, as the cult leader, want to run things. Aside from that, combat, the way you manage your cultists, and exploration feels pretty basic. But I can see this being a case of less is more. Even though both the roguelike and micromanaging sides seem alright looking at them separately, when they are combined, they provide a well-balanced experience on both sides with mechanics woven between them to complement them both. All wrapped up in a cutesy satanic art style that drives both adorableness and shock value. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, it's time to see which one of these 4 titans of the roguelike genre will come out on top. In 4th place we have... Hey wait, what's that alarm? Oh, what the... Ah yes, Synthetic. Never has there been a better candidate for our first mystery fighter. Synthetic is chaos incarnate, the game. Unless the room you're fighting in is completely clear, anything can happen. Trying to hack the tower's server to escape? Well, they just called in the tank. Looks like someone has caused too much racket, and now the Railgun Squad has been alerted. You may not know it, but somewhere, lurking in the shadows, is a Blackwatch assassin, and he knows right where you are. In the middle of a firefight? Well, looks like your gun just jammed, and now you have to mash reload before you're turned into sandwich meat. Like most roguelikes, Synthetic has the same characteristics of the genre, but it truly makes the art its own by combining elements of realism, experimentation, and just full-blown chaos. Accuracy, for example. Movement is your best friend and your greatest enemy. While moving is a great way to avoid being shot, it's not the greatest way to land your shots. To get the most accurate shot from any weapon, you must stand completely still and put the cursor right over the enemy's head. Sure, you could aim in the general direction and land body shots, but a well-placed deagle bullet to the dome will make short work of any android. Once a reload? Not as simple as it sounds. You have to physically eject and insert your magazine. Land the special timing, and you'll get a damage boost. However, don't reload whenever you please, for any ammunition left in your mag stays, and will be forever lost should you prematurely throw it out. Sound also plays a massive role, as the RPG you just fired into the group of robots just alerted their buddies, and they will come to investigate the new crater you left in their floor. Once you get the rhythm of trying not to die down, you can exploit the system harder than you can ever imagine. My RPG must be reloaded every time I fire, however, I've discovered items and upgrades that allow me to expand my ammo capacity and have a 15% chance for my rockets to magically reappear, no reloading required. The only downside to all these exploits is you have to read a lot. You have a lot to play with, but just throwing on upgrades willy-nilly can cause you to not understand what build you're creating, and you can miss out on some absolutely broken settings. You can even pick your class to better suit your playstyle. There are 4 classes with 2 variants-based game. You have your Guardians that specialize in survivability, Rogues, the sneaky glass cannons, Commandos, which are high risk, high reward, and the Specialists, a class I don't understand worth a damn, but if they are mastered, they are unstoppable. The more you play with these classes, the more items and abilities you can unlock to customize your character's starting loadout. So, pick your class, load your weapon, and dive headfirst into the chaos that is Synthetic. Finally, we have the combatants set, and it's time to see which one of these 5 amazing titles is worthy enough to take home the gold. Before we begin, I have to say this was the most difficult ranking I've had thus far. I've found every title examined today to be extremely fun in their own unique way, and I can confidently recommend every single one to a roguelike fan. But unfortunately, the show calls for a winner, which means there must also be a loser. So though my opinions may differ from yours, just know I have massive respect for all the titles reviewed today, and I'm so happy this was the lineup for episode 2 of Game Bracket. In 5th place, we have Heroes of Hammerwatch. This game has a lot of charm put into its gameplay, character customization, and has a unique way of adding tension to what's at risk. Having to choose between holding onto my valuables to net more of a profit when I return to town really had me thinking about how to approach my current run. And the Diablo style of dungeon generation and hidden puzzles and trap rooms were always fun to explore and conquer. And bringing the town back to life while changing the way things looked was exciting enough to keep me going back for more. The only thing holding this title back is its repetitive approach to combat and the slog of traversing through 3 floors to see new environments. But I still enjoy the time I spent playing, and I plan to continue bringing life back to Hammerwatch and bring some friends along the way. Cult of the Lamb takes 4th place, and not for the reasons you think. There is a lot you can do in this game, and honestly, I'd be willing to say Devolver did an outstanding job taking 2 separate genres and weaving them into one title with a bold art style and engaging gameplay on both the roguelike and micromanaging side. Its two-faced identity unfortunately held back the true potential of each genre, making both sides not expressive enough to last on their own, but rely heavily on one another to work. So even though the game is good, I feel it doesn't stick out too much other than the shock value of its cultic activities and the borderline satanic imagery. Nevertheless, Cult of the Lamb is an outstanding title, and it really pushes the boundary of what a roguelike can be. Bullets per minute takes home the bronze, and that's not a bad thing. I consider the top 3 to be the best of the best, and if you consider BPM to be number 1, then I can completely understand why. The satisfaction of slaying monsters to the beat of heavy metal is second to none, and I've never seen such a bold approach executed so well. And the fact its theme around Norse mythology only sweetens the pot, and having the option to add your own music to play to is just outright hilarious, and provides all the more reason to upload your favorite tracks and perfect your symphony of slaughter. As the battle reaches its climax, we are left with two challengers in the ring. Our surprise challenger Synthetic and Enter the Gungeon. As much as I wish this could be a tie, I must stick to my word of there can only be one winner. Both Synthetic and Enter the Gungeon stole my heart for the same reason, and that's just how wild every playthrough could be. With incredible top-down combat, a massive arsenal of weapons to gun down your foes, and some of the most memorable and exhilarating bosses of all time. But there can only be one winner, and that honor belongs to Enter the Gungeon. The dividing factor that separated Gungeon from Synthetic is the most opinionated reason ever, and that's just based off pure aesthetic alone. While Synthetic is based around a more grittier, intense style, Gungeon is just wacky and expressive with its weapons and characters, while embracing its identity of being a video game by mentioning other classics in its arsenal, or by taking something completely stupid and just making it fun. Name one other video game where you can fight a horde of sentient bullets armed with a balloon gun that shoots tornadoes, or a demon head with a description that says wanged, and then proceed to fight a buff-ish pigeon wielding a Gatling gun. Now, I will give Synthetic the medal of most in-depth mechanics, as really diving into how the game works can lead to some unfathomable builds that shouldn't be allowed to exist. But Enter the Gungeon's charm and willingness to accept how silly it is just appeals to me more. And with that, we have our winner. Congratulations to Enter the Gungeon for winning episode 2 of Game Bracket. It was a hell of a fight. Stick around to find out next episode's theme and contestants, and of course the end card. Thank you so much for watching. Hello, thank you so much for watching all the way through. I greatly appreciate it. This was Game Bracket Episode 2 featuring roguelikes, and one thing I want to make clear about this new show is that a subject is not going to be visited once. Like, we will visit roguelikes again, and it'll be a completely new set of games. So if, say, a title you wanted to see that related to this genre didn't get featured, there's a strong possibility it could be in a return episode or anything like that. That's one of the great things about this series, is that the ideas are limitless. Like, we could cover any topic, and I think it's a lot of fun. Also, Merry Christmas. As of right now, it is 2:40 a.m. December 25th, and God, I tried to get this out before Christmas Eve, but you know, holidays are busy. I'm just glad I was able to get this finished. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching. The next video to come out will be the top 10 best games of 2022, and then Game Bracket Episode 3, and maybe an update video on some ideas I have with this channel. And I also have another project in the works that is probably going to be one of my most ambitious projects that I've done so far, and it has nothing to do with video games or GalicEnder. It's something that I hope will help a lot of people, and you will hear about it soon when I release the video for it in the next few days. So I'm excited to announce that. But have a great holiday season. Have an amazing 2023. And as always, thank you so much for watching and your patience and your support. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.